Hi, I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Music Theory Tuition series where I work with you step by step through the ABRSM Discovering Music Theory grades. I'll work through every single exercise and explain everything you need to know. You can access information about the books I have available to help you on my website. Go to sharonbill.com. For advert-free and longer lessons, you can become a patron at patreon.com/SharonBill. If you can give me a like, that would be super, and please do subscribe to my channel to stay updated. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SharonBill. Let's press on with this topic of intervals, moving on to page 38 of the Grade 5 Discovering Music Theory workbook. And at the top of the page we have a clever little tip that we've actually been using already. So sometimes we always consider the lowest note as our tonic, however sometimes it's not so easy to be thinking in the key of C sharp major or C sharp minor, and so we kind of change and adjust it at the edges, starting with C and E, and then we can notch things inwards and outwards with regard to the sharps and flats, which we'll have a look at in a second. But it's also really helpful to use the piano keyboard as a visual aid so you can see that the intervals are getting smaller or bigger, because if an interval is raised on the lower note, it actually makes the interval smaller because you're bringing the lower note upwards. So don't just think sharps make things bigger or raise them. Yes, it raises the bottom note, but it makes the interval smaller. And so it's helpful to have a piano keyboard. Even if you don't play piano, just have a little sketch of one to hand. It's very easy to just quickly draw one out. It doesn't have to be a work of art. Just give yourself, a good few notes. I would always do this on a scrap paper, even for your exam. Give yourself a good octave or so. And we know it goes 2 black keys, miss, 3 black keys, miss. I wouldn't like to play this piano. 2 keys, miss, and then so on. You can colour them in, by all means. And then just to make things easy, even give yourself the letter names. So you could perhaps take a little bit more care than I've just done, but it just shows it's very easy to quickly sketch a piano keyboard as a visual reference. And so let's look at this interval here. So we have a C sharp to an E flat. We know that it's a 1, 2, 3, a third of some sort, but it's quite hard thinking, well, if C sharp is our tonic. So let's start with C to E. So we know that C to E would be a major third. However, we've raised the lower note, which makes the interval smaller, and so that becomes minor. Major made small by a semitone is minor, but then we've now got to knock the top note down a semitone. So it's coming inwards from both sides, and so we've made it smaller again by going from E natural to E flat. So we now have gone from minor to diminished, and so we know that C sharp to E flat is diminished. We've made it smaller twice, from major to minor to diminished. And remember, we're always thinking E flat because it's the note E flat that we're replacing. It's not the same as thinking to a D sharp or so on. Don't change enharmonically. We know it's a third, and then we knock the edges in, as it were. It's just easier sometimes if we've got an awkward note to start from. So let's have a look at putting this in practice. And so the important thing, first of all, is always to get the note head in the right place. We've got to get the number first, and so it's kind of getting the blobs in the right spot to begin with, as it were. So we're counting always from the lowest note. We're always counting upwards, and we need a 7th. The given note is always note 1, and we're counting line space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. And so that gives us from A flat to, that's a G sharp here. So we know that A flat major has B flats, E flats, A flats, D flats, And so A flat to G would be major, but then we've got to raise it to augmented, and so it's got to become G sharp. And so that's how we figure out what's going on. Let's have a go at one of these. Now, an octave is perfect until we adjust it. And so we're counting up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 is going to require the ledger line. So we've gone from A to A. And so A to A is our perfect octave, but we're asked to write an augmented one, so we've got to make it bigger. We can't change the given note, so we change the top note by raising it, and so it becomes A sharp. That will then give us the augmented part of that. Because we've gone from A to A, that's our perfect, and then we've augmented it by making it a semitone bigger. So now we need to write a diminished sixth. So we start by, first of all, let's get the sixth part of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the ledger line, 6 is the space above. So there we go, that's our sixth. And then we have a key signature of B flats and E flats. Now, at the moment, this is a B flat, so we've gone from D to B flat. We know that D to B is major. D major has F sharps and C sharps. D minor has B flats. We make the major interval, the greater interval, smaller. Minor is a flat. We've made it smaller. However, we need it to be diminished. We need it smaller again. We can't call it note A because that wouldn't be a sixth then. That would be a fifth of some sort. So we're going to have to call the B flat a double flat to make the minor interval smaller again. So that must be from B flat to B double flat to diminish that sixth interval. Let's carry on. So we need a fourth. And so 1, 2, 3, 4 takes us, at first glance, it looks like from C to F. Actually, it's C sharp to F sharp. So we know that C to F is perfect. C sharp to F sharp likewise is perfect. However, we need an augmented fourth, and so we need to make it a semitone greater, semitone bigger. And so we need to raise that note by a semitone. We can't call it G. We have to call F sharp, now F double sharp, to raise it by another semitone. And so we've got the F sharp, and then we need to raise it by a semitone to make it the augmented interval rather than the perfect. So here we have a D. We need an octave, which will take us up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our perfect octave. D to D is perfect. However, we need a diminished octave, so we're going to have to make the interval smaller. And so D flat will give us that semitone smaller, and so we need D flat to diminish the perfect interval. And so we think at first it might be a little trickier in this unusual clef, unless this is the clef that you play for your instrument. That was tricky to say. However, it doesn't matter. We just count the spaces and the lines just the same as normal. So we need a seventh. So before we even know what note we're on, we can get that sorted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There. Now let's see what notes we're playing. We've got a, if that's C, that's a B. C, D, E, F, G, A. That's a seventh because of course B to B is an octave, so one last takes us to A. Now then, if B is our tonic, we count the lowest note as the tonic regardless of what's going on here. Now we know that B major should have A sharps because it's got a key signature of F, C, G, D, A sharps. And so let's think about this. B to A sharp would be major. And then a smaller interval would be A natural. That's what we have at present because we've got no sharps at all. But we need it to be smaller still. And so to make it diminished, we've got to make it a semitone smaller. It becomes flat. So B to A flat is diminished. And so there is our A natural, which is minor, and then diminish it by calling it A flat. And so that's that. And so perhaps now, these are tricky, and I do appreciate that, but if you keep going, you do learn by your mistakes. So I would suggest that you now press pause and try this last section on your own, or at least some of them. Maybe try this next row and then pop back into the video and we can check through them together. And as you get used to it, practice makes perfect, and you eventually learn by your mistakes a bit at a time. So I'm hoping you've tried some of these now, so let's work through these next few together. So here we want a third of some sort, 1, 2, 3, so that takes us here. Now let's see what notes we've got. This is a C, B, A, G, F. We've got a key signature of B flat. There's our F major key signature. This is our tonic. And this is an F, G, A is our third. Now F to A is major. However, we don't want a major interval, we want an augmented interval. And so in order to make that a semitone greater, we augment it by adding a sharp. So we want from major to augmented, so that's F to A natural is major, F to A sharp is augmented. And so we need, there's note A, but we need to sharpen it to make that augmented interval. So now we need a sixth from this note A here. Let's count. 1 is A, 2 is B, space line, space line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes us to F. Now, if we count the lowest note as our tonic, we know that A major should have F sharps. It's got a key signature of F, C, G sharps. And so in order for it to be a major 6, we go from A to F sharp would be major. However, we don't want major, we want augmented. And so we have to change from F sharp to F double sharp. We can't call it a G, otherwise that changes it to an interval of a seventh. It's from F sharp to F double sharp to augment the sixth interval. So there's our F, which for major would be sharp, but for augmented is double sharp. So now here we have to find the interval of a third. So 1, 2, 3 here. So it's an F something to an A something. Now it's quite tricky, first of all, thinking in the key of F sharp major, as it were. So let's just shunt it round a little bit. So we know that F to A is a major third. So we have actually an F sharp to A, so F sharp makes it smaller. That would be minor now. We've gone from major, a semitone smaller is minor. And if you think about your F sharp minor arpeggio, we know that it goes F sharp to A. However, that's not quite the full story yet. We need it to be diminished. And so we've got to make it smaller again. And so we've got to come inwards on this side as well. So we've gone from F to A, which is major, F sharp to A is minor. Bring this top one down a semitone, and we've diminished the interval of a third. So we need A flat. So F sharp to A flat is a diminished third. Just the same as when we did this little example here. The same principle there has shown up here. And then let's now look at this last row. So do just have a go of these on your own, and now we'll check through them together. Don't worry if you've made some mistakes, that's okay. We learn by our mistakes. And so we need an interval of a 6. Let's get this bit sorted first. So counting this as 1, 2, line space. So space, line space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes us to this line here. Let's see what notes we play. We've got a key signature of 2 sharps, which is F sharps and C sharps. This note here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's a C, an octave below the middle C. It's actually a C sharp, isn't it, because of the key signature. And then the 6th takes us to C, D, E, F, G, A. So again, we're starting on an awkward note. So let's start on C and we'll sort of adjust the edges to help. So C to A is a major 6th. However, we've got C sharp to A, so we've made the major interval smaller by raising the lower note. We can see the interval shrunk inwards, so that's minor. However, we need it smaller still, and so to make that minor interval a semitone smaller, we can bring the top note down from A natural to A flat. So we have A, C sharp to A is minor, C sharp to A flat brings us that diminished interval. And so if we think about what we've just done here, let's look at the steps. We've gone from C to A is major, C sharp to A is minor, and then we've gone C sharp to A flat is diminished. They are the steps that we followed to get this. Now here we need a second of some sort. If this is 1, this is 2, next door note. Let's see what notes we're playing. So let's just jump up an octave because we're quite low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's here. So we're going from here to here. So that's a B flat. Oh, flat. I wrote that the wrong side. And so 1 above that takes us to C, and we can see that's a C an octave low. So we've got from B flat to C. Now we know that in the key of B flat major, we've got a key signature of B flats and E flats. And we know that from B flat to C natural is a full step. It's a full tone. That's our major second. However, that's not quite enough. We need an augmented. And so we've got to make that major interval bigger by raising the C. And so we need to add a sharp. And so we need B flat to C sharp to make the major interval into an augmented. So it's B flat to C sharp. And then finally we need a 6th of some sort. So let's just get the note heads in the right place. Let's get the blobs down first, as it were. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the line, 6 is the space. And let's see what notes we've got here. This is a C, D, E. And then we've got E, F, G, A, B, C. E to C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our 6th. That's our basic 6th. So we know that E major, if this is our tonic, E major would have F, C, G, D sharp. So E to C sharp would be major. However, we don't want that. We want augmented, so we've got to go higher still. We can't say D because then that becomes a 7th, doesn't it? So we have to call it C double sharp. We've raised the C once to make it major. We raise the C again to double sharp to make it augmented. And so we've gone from C, which is minor, C sharp, which is major, and then C double sharp, which is augmented. It's a tricky topic, I do understand that. However, practice, and it soon begins to make sense. There are lots of tips we can use. I do suggest a piano keyboard is a big one of those to visualise what we're doing. And that's exercise 4 completed. I hope this is helpful to your studies. Please do like and subscribe to stay updated. If you'd like to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee, and for advert-free lessons, you can become a patron. Do visit my website where you'll find many resources available to help you. Visit sharonbill.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.